Yes guys, what's going on? Welcome to AdamMcKola TV and another weekly United. Hope you guys are all doing well at home. Probably starting to feel very festive right about now, as well as Christmas nears for everybody, and the festive fixture list is really cranking up. Loads of games coming thick and fast, and Manchester United coming into the back of this period. You're looking at it, we're coming into it on the back of a City win. A win over Manchester City in the derby at the Etihad. A win over Tottenham Hotspur and Jose Mourinho's Spurs. And of course, sealing a place in the League Cup semi-final. And another Manchester derby. I say another two Manchester derbies for a place in the final of the League Cup and the first domestic final of the season. Yet still, Manchester United fans on the weird wide web have found reason to complain, bitch and moan, and there are a number of reasons for that. One, Ashley Young being Ashley Young. Two, Paul Pogba being Paul Pogba. And three, Anthony Martial. And we'll be discussing all of that today in the Weekly United, as well as talking about some of your comments and questions that you have sent in for me. Firstly, let's get stuck into the Ashley Young one. And this came from the fact that there were rumours that Ashley Young would not be offered a new deal at the end of the season, which would mean he would be leaving on a free. Now, Ashley Young, I'd be the first to admit, is a player that is pretty much finished. He doesn't offer much anymore at left back. He's getting older, he's not getting any better. If anything, he's getting a little bit worse. But one thing about Ashley Young is a top bloke, is a good lad. He's always worked his balls off for Manchester United. He's always fought for the shirt. He's played in every single position apart from goalkeeper and never ever complained. And he's a man that has won the lot bar the Champions League at Manchester United, which isn't a bad haul at all. And I think some of the disrespect and the rejoicing and everything that came from that was a little bit sad, to be honest. It was like hearing Phil Jones say that only his mum and dad would turn up to his testimonial. Probably true, something that I've said, I think, last year. But, like, absolutely digging into Ashley Young when he could be leaving the club at the end of the season, I think that's a little bit tight. I think that's a little bit out of order. Now, I wouldn't be the first to put him in my predicted 11s or my preferred 11s. I wouldn't be the first to say he should be starting every single game, especially when you look at Aaron Wan-Bissaka on the right. On the left, we've got Luke Shaw, Brandon Williams, Ethan Laird's also coming through. The players that can play in those fullback positions. But he's a player that has never been a fullback anyway. He's a winger. He was a half-decent Premier League winger once upon a time, and he did well for United. He's been converted into a fullback, used there by multiple different managers, and he's always grafted. Whether he's good enough or not is another question, but he's always grafted, and I think he deserves a little bit more respect. So if this is Ashley Young's last year, look, complain about his performances if he has a bad game. By all means, I'll be doing that as well. So when I complain about one of his performances, please don't say, Adam, you big hypocrite. But don't rejoice at the fact that he could be leaving, because this is a man that has fought for Manchester United and won a fair decent amount as well. So have a little bit of respect, eh? Another man that has been boiling the piss of Manchester United fans this week is Paul Pogba. Now this come on the back of, obviously, he's been out with an injury. He's been out with an ankle injury for club and country for a while. He played 90 minutes against Rochdale. He aggravated that injury even further, and ever since he's been out. He's been in a cast and all sorts. He has returned to training this week, but it came on the back of him dancing at his brother's wedding. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, he had the cheek to dance at his brother's wedding. Now, I assume he wasn't drinking, which, even if he did have a little drink at his brother's wedding, that's not a problem, but he doesn't drink, he's a Muslim, so I assume he doesn't drink anyway. So, he wasn't drinking, he was dancing at his brother's wedding. He was there, having a good time. Now, should a player that's injured or not been playing not be able to have a good time at his brother's wedding? A joyous occasion, an occasion that for most people only comes along once. You know, I don't see the issue with him dancing at his brother's wedding. Now, he came back, he reported back to Carrington, and he was ill. Now, a lot of people lost their heads further at this, and they almost read it as if Paul Pogba had rang in hungover from his brother's wedding saying, I can't make it to training today, I'm a bit ill. That's not what happened. When you look at what happened, he reported to training. The club doctors told Ollie he's ill. He was ill, but he was at training. Now, it's been disappointing that he's been out injured. We've needed him. I think that's been clear, especially in those games against those low blocks. We've needed Paul Pogba to break down defences. And I think it's also clear that he'll eventually be leaving Manchester United in the summer. I don't think he'll leave in January. But I think some of this is over the top as well. I think you're looking at a player that, yes, he wants to go. Yes, he was outspoken about leaving. His brothers are constantly outspoken about leaving. So is his agent. That is annoying. Can't stand that stuff. But even though he wanted to leave, he arrived at pre-season training. He grafted along with the rest of the squad. He was part of the team. And he's never let that affect his performances. And I think it's unfair to use that against him. Nevertheless, I can see why some would be sceptical about an illness now. If it's not one thing, it's another. And maybe if he did want to be here, he would have rushed back sooner. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, that's only something he can answer. But I think a lot of people assume things, and you get angry over things that have been assumed as well, or over things that are just in social media. Just relax a little bit. Relax a little bit. And I actually think, whilst I would love him to be playing for United, and I'm looking forward to his return, like, us actually playing without him is is showing signs that of a life without Paul Pogba in United's midfield. So I don't think that's a massive harm either. Of course, we do need this guy back though, because we've seen in games we need someone to create chances for these strikers. They've not had a whole load of chances, and Paul Pogba will definitely help with that. Even if it is till the end of the season, when hopefully he can help us grab Champions League football, grab a trophy or two. And then, if you want to leave, but do it quietly and don't disrespect the club in the process. Another thing that people were moaning about was Anthony Martial. Strange one as well. He just scored the winner in the Manchester derby not long ago. I remember when he returned and everyone was saying, this is what we've been missing. He's so important to the team. Look how much better Marcus Rashford is in with the team and our shape is. And now all of a sudden, they want him out. And it's really strange. I find it mad. And some of the criticism that's come from Ryan Giggs and from someone else that was in the press, I think maybe Paul Scholes talking about him, I thought it was Roy Keane, sorry. I thought it was totally unfair. And I thought in that Everton game, his movement, his link-up play actually was quite good. We never created any opportunities for him. Against Colchester, it was a poor, we were playing against poor opposition. But he was motivated for that game. He was making the runs. He was getting into areas. He was linking up the play. Even without his goal, he was looking better as a number 9. And at times he had 2-3 centre-halves around him. And I think some of the criticism is just totally unfair. It'll be from, like, the TV will pan to Martial's face and he'll be looking, like, emotionless as he normally does. But what's the problem with that? I remember this thing happening to Dimitar Berbatov and him getting ripped because he didn't run around like a headless chicken. I think sometimes people just need to relax a little. And I do actually think one of my criticisms of Martial was his movement. And I do actually think his movement's got better. A lot of the time we just don't find him. Or the move breaks down. But we haven't really been creating opportunities. A lot of the times he'll be in between defenders looking for the ball over the top or in behind. And the ball doesn't come. So there's only so much he can do. Of course, he can improve. He's not perfect. But some of the criticism's totally uncalled for. And when you look at his goal record, 7 in 14 starts, 1 in 2, can't complain. Anyway, moving on to some of your questions and your comments. First one coming from Tom James England, who says Gomez contract talks. Now, from speaking with Steve, who seems to be in the know on this kind of thing with Angel Gomez, it does look like he has an offer from Manchester United and from Barcelona. Will he be off? It kind of looks that way, doesn't it? I assume the club aren't playing him because of the fact that he could be off. He could be signing a deal elsewhere. We're trying to get him tied down. And maybe us saying, look, we're not going to put you in the first team until you sign a deal is something that's kind of a carrot to him. I'd love him to sign a contract. I think he's a magnificent footballer. I think he's got great potential. But I also think we could have seen more from him when he has played. But also we could have played him more as well. Hopefully this contract stuff gets sorted very soon. But I'm not confident about that one. Tony V says January transfer window, the need for a creative midfielder. Now there has been rumours this week that we're going to get a holding midfielder and a striker in the window. That striker possibly being Erling Braut Harland. But creative midfielders obviously coming into the mix. And if we were to get one, the typical names of Bruno Fernandes, James Maddison, Jack Grealish all pop up. But will they be available in the January transfer window? The one that's likely to be more available in January transfer window is probably Bruno Fernandes or Christian Eriksen. Spurs probably aren't going to sell a player to us. Do we want a player that's at that stage of his career who looks like he's gone a little bit stale, but possibly needs a new challenge? It's hard to tell. And would we go in full-blooded for Bruno Fernandes, who would be Europa League tied? So I can't see us getting that creative midfielder in January, but those are the names that I'm sure will be popping up. Hamish Murison, touches on what I spoke about earlier in terms of why do people give analysis such as calling a player lazy when that analysis in itself is lazy. Like with what Neville and Giggs said about Martial, when you can see he brings a lot of small simple things to the team that no one else can. Totally agree with you. Look at Rashford's performances with him in the team. Look at United's shape without him in the team. It's a lot poorer, and I think the most notable evidence of that was against Sheffield United when we substituted him. We didn't have a natural number 9 and we lost our shape. That's not to say he can't improve, because he can, but the criticism I think is uncalled for. And particularly against Everton, he was better than Daniel James, he was better than Martial, he was better than Lingard, yet none of them came in for criticism. Why was it Anthony Martial? Because he's not British? Maybe. Jay Brew says, how will we set up if we sign Harland, and will Martial be sold? I don't think Anthony Martial will be sold. We need places, we need strikers, we need a number of people in each position, and we need competition for spots. If you look at it at the moment, you'd say our first choice front three is Rashford, Martial, Daniel James. Beyond that, we've got Mason Greenwood. So let's say at this moment in time in Mason Greenwood's career, he plays out wide, so he's back up for Daniel James. If we bring in another striker, Erling Harland, he can play in that number 9 position. That could also mean playing Martial, Harland and Rashford in a front 3. It could also mean swapping Harland and Martial. It could also mean playing a front 2 in a 3-4-1-2 and a 4-4-2 formation. So it does open up the options, and I think when you look at the way we've been playing, Erling Haaland would definitely bring in a different kind of striker, a different kind of plan B as well. So I don't see a problem with that at all. More says tactical selection ideas for coming up against a deep block. Even against Colchester last night, our breakthrough was a counter-attack. It's frustrating, and the thing for me as well is watching that game. We had Martial there, we had Rashford there, and we had Mason Greenwood, and we had Matic sitting, and then we had Pereira and Mata in between, and they were the ones that were supposed to be creating and pulling strings. And to be fair to Andreas Pereira, he created a few opportunities with some magnificent passes. He had a hit and miss game, but you're going to have that in that position. But what happens is, and what's frustrating for me is, those two then join that front 3 almost, and it becomes like a front 4 or a front 5. At times Mata was right in the pocket next to Martial, and you're thinking you're the one that's got to pick up that space and give it to Martial. And he makes a lot of runs in between the lines off the shoulder, and no one ever picks them out. Maybe a 4-3-3, if we had those options in midfield, it means that we'd have more space in between that line. Now, if you've got a quality number 10, which we haven't got, and you play the way we're playing at the moment with like a 4-2-3-1, or you've got Paul Pogba in there, then I do actually think this could work. And I do think the quality of passing would be a lot better, and the movement as well. Because sometimes the movement and off the ball, when say Martial comes deep or Rashford comes to, no one's moving in and off them. Everything's very static. And I think one player can kind of trigger all of that, and we don't have that at the moment. So maybe a 4-3-3, because then our midfield's a little bit deeper, which would possibly mean that opposition are likely to come out a little bit more, give a little bit more space. Because if you look at Martial, he's better when defenders are high up the pitch. Rashford's the same, Daniel James is the same. And if you can kind of suck those guys out of their positions, play with it a little bit deeper in midfield, then you can create those spaces in behind. But at the moment, we're playing with it on the edge of people's boxes, and we're not being able to create those spaces or those overloads in behind. Another thing that doesn't help is the fullbacks. And I think, Brandon Williams has shown a willingness to get forward. Luke Shaw doesn't do that enough. Diogo Dalot does. Ashley Young does at times, but for me, far too negative and comes back too often. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, excellent defensively, has some work to do going forward, but is still probably our best attacking fullback, which is crazy considering that, that's a game that he can work on. So I think the fullback's getting better as well, being able to offer us those overlapping runs, because we don't go beyond players at all. The fullbacks don't. It's all in front of us, and then we just end up having 2 flat banks of 5 just kicking the ball about, and it's awful. 2 more questions on Harland, which I've kind of answered already because of the Martial thing, but how would Harland fit into the team, and would it halt Greenwood's progress? No, we need players. The thing that we lack compared to all these other teams is a squad, and a quality squad fighting for places. And it also looks like we've got a manager that wants to attack, and at most times we'll be playing 4 attackers. You need a fluid system. You need people that are going to be moving. Greenwood's still very young at 18. If we can bed him in slowly, as we are doing, it's not a problem at all for him. Of course, you have to be up for the challenge. You have to be up for the challenge. That goes for Martial, Rashford, Greenwood, Harland. You have to be up for the challenge, or otherwise you're going to get left behind. But that's not a bad thing. It can only help the other players improve. We need a strong squad. It doesn't mean the end of Martial at United, Shivesh. Not in my opinion, anyway. Anyway, guys, thank you for tuning in to AdamMcKola TV. Make sure you're liking, commenting, sharing and subscribing. This has been the Weekly United with some of your questions and my answers chucked into the mix as well. Let us know what you're thinking about everything that we've discussed today. Make sure you're keeping it locked by hitting that red subscribe button. For now, though, I'm going to get out of here. But over the weekend, we'll have the preview to the Watford game, so keep it locked for that. And also my reaction from Vicarage Road as well. For now, I've been AdamMcKola. I'm out of here.